Hello, welcome back to MFWoodShop. My name is Mike. This is episode 2 of the Mitre station build. Today we're going to do the drawers, the drawer slides, and a few little knickknacks here and there. And I am going to have to run this over into 3 videos to wrap it all up. I would like to take a minute to thank my sponsors for this video series, Tiger Ply and Craig Tools. Without their help, this project could not come this far so fast. Tiger Ply has donated all the plywood for this build, and I couldn't thank them enough. The product that they gave me is Tiger Ply's Edge birch plywood. I got 3/4 sheets and 1/2 inch sheets, and the plywood itself, in my opinion, the 2 main benefits to this plywood is the surface on the front and back is near flawless, and also the cores, there is very little voids in this plywood. If you remember the Connect 4 game, and I'll put a link in the description below, I made the Yard Connect 4 game out of this plywood as well. And I turned those sheets pretty much into Swiss cheese, and I'd seen no voids in the plywood, even in the middle of the plywood itself. So in my opinion, those are 2 very strong aspects of this plywood. Now, Craig Tools is also a sponsor, and they donated the Craig Foreman. And with a project this size, using that many pocket holes, I couldn't imagine doing it any other way. The Craig Foreman has performed much better than I anticipated, and it knocked out well over 300 pocket holes for this project in no time. For speed and accuracy on the pocket holes, you can't ask for a better tool. So thank you again to my sponsors, and let's get on to this build. All right, welcome back to episode 2 of the Mitre station build. What I'm doing here is ripping down a couple 1/2 inch pieces of plywood provided by Tiger Ply, and I'm just putting those up against the backboard, mostly to cover up the ruined paint job that was already there. Now I'm screwing these in with 3-inch screws into each stud, and not that I need that much holding power to hold these up there, because they were actually pretty tight already. I more or less did it to mark the stud locations, so if I ever wanted to hang anything up here, such as I do later in this video, I'll know exactly where the studs are. Now on top of this Mitre station, I put 3/4 inch plywood just as a shelving, because the top part of the cabinets, they're not fully enclosed. I could have done that, I just thought this might be a little easier, and I'm just screwing those down with screws and holding those in place. Now down at the toe kick, I'm not really ready for the toe kick, but I kept dropping stuff and kicking it underneath the cabinet. So I'm going ahead and putting in the toe kicks for now. These are going to be temporary. I'll have to come back and take them off later to do the dust collection and the floor sweep that I want to do on this particular piece. I'm just holding these in with 2 screws for now. Now it's on to building the fence for the Mitre station itself. I'm gluing 2 3/4 inch pieces of plywood together to make it thick enough to align with the Mitre fence on the saw itself. Man, that's a mouthful, and I hope you understood what I was trying to say. But essentially gluing 2 sets of these for the Mitre fences and putting them in clamps and letting them set. I let them set for about 2 days before I actually use them. Now this was one tricky piece. I built the middle cabinet a lot lower than what I needed to, and I kind of did that on purpose so I could use it for additional saws later. And so I had to build this plate that I'm getting ready to mount here to raise the saw up. Now underneath the plate I put these washers to lift the plate up even higher so the bed of the saw will be level with the top of the cabinets. I used T-bolts underneath and bolts going through the saw, the plate, the washers, and the cabinet. So I got them pretty well tightened down with the screw gun, and then I went back with a wrench to fine tune it to get it perfectly level with the cabinet. And with the wrench, I can actually crush the wood a little bit so I can actually get this perfectly level. So the wrench actually worked out really good, and using the washers, I was able to crush the wood enough to get it perfectly level. And I didn't want any slop between the three surfaces. And that's perfect. Now on the miter fence, I wanted to put T-tracks in there, and I wanted the T-tracks to match up with the T-tracks on the miter fence that I built for the miter saw. And the miter fence and the saw and the T-tracks, they all align just perfectly. I did have to raise the fence up just a width of a ruler actually, and it worked out perfect. Doing it over again, I would have made the fence a little taller and scribed it with the bottom of the cabinet and made it absolutely flush. As it sits now, it's just a little low. So what I'm building now is the lumber rack that's going above the miter station. I had a bunch of scrap plywood laying around, so I figured this would be a good opportunity to use some of it. And I cut a bunch of squares and rectangles and strips to accomplish this. And I was actually able to use the miter saw for the first time in the station. I really need to get the dust collector hooked up. I cut a bunch of triangles out, 14 in total, to make all the lumber racks. And then all those little strips that I cut down, I cut those to width. There was 7 of one size and 7 of another size. I cut some extras just in case. Assembly was straightforward: glue, some staples, and one of these little 2-inch strips is 3/4 inches longer. That way they kind of meet up in the back. So just glue and some staples to hold everything together. And I've done that 7 times. So once I got all these triangle blocks built, I hung them up on the walls using the screw holes from the board earlier to verify where the studs are. And it holds all these little cut off pieces of scrap plywood that I've had laying around in the shop up here quite well. And this is the only place I'm going to have to store lumber, and I think the whole top part of this miter station is going to be lumber storage, and I think it's going to work out pretty good for me. I can put a shelf on there later if I need to extend that out further for, you know, storing boxes or whatever, and the top part of it I can store whatever I want. So now it's on for the drawers. 2 of these drawers are going to be about 12 inches deep, and I needed them 12 inches. I needed at least one drawer 12 inches deep to accommodate one toolbox that I had, and it's for my Sawzall that I never really had a good place to store that, so I built one drawer specifically to hold that particular tool. And the rest of them were 5-inch drawers, and a lot of just ripping down and cross-cutting the length at this point. So in this video, I'm covering 8 drawers in total, and all said and done, this whole thing will have about 16 to 20 drawers. Now, using the pocket hole machine provided by Craig, the Craig Foreman, again, performed awesome, even with the 1/2-inch plywood. I just had to readjust the fence and readjust my settings a little bit, and it worked great. I used pocket holes to assemble the drawers, and I couldn't ask for an easier drawer building experience. It was time consuming, but all in all, very easy. Now essentially one front, one back, one side and another side. Put some clamps in, hold it, put some staples in to hold the sides, and then come back with the pocket holes and glue to hold everything together. The bottom was just cut to fit, and glue, staples to hold it, and then came back with some screws. I built shop drawers like this before, and I've never had a problem with them. Now installing them, that's where it took some time. These are 26-inch drawer slides and full extension. So I wanted to set the face of the drawer inset into the cabinet. So I'm setting the slides off inside 3/4 inches, and then I made this little story pole block, I guess you can call it, and I set the top one in place, moved it to the back, drilled it and drilled the back piece, and then filled in the rest of the screw holes. Once I got the upper slides in place, I cut a line and used that same story pole block to set the rest of the rails. So I set 4, cut a line, cut a little bit off that story pole, and then set 4 more, cut some more off of that story pole, set 4 more, and so on. So before I even started the drawers, I made that story pole with all the measurements I needed. In hindsight, it would have been easier to put the slides in while the cabinet was down, but I didn't. So to install the drawer, on the bottom drawer, I got a 1/4 inch spacer. I pulled the drawer out just a little bit in the slides to meet up with the edge, put a screw in on each side, pulled it out most of the way, put a screw in the middle. Then I'm pulling the drawer out all the way and putting the screw in the back slides. And then came back through and filled in the rest of the screw holes on each drawer. On all the other drawers, they have a 1/2 inch spacing. Followed the same process, I just used a 1/2 inch spacer instead of a 1/4 inch spacer. And I put a screw in there for a knob just for now. So it'll get you an idea of the volume of space in this particular drawer here. I got a tile saw that I've never really had a home for. I do now. I got a sander that my brother gave me I never really had a home for. I do now. And in the other drawer, that big black case there towards the bottom, that's the one I made the drawer to fit. All right, I really hope you enjoyed the process to this point. I will have to do a third video just to wrap up some little things and to make this thing fully functional. Right now I need to do the drawer fronts. Decide whether or not I'm going to keep this pull-out tray or redesign it. And I still have the dust collector, some wiring to do. The wiring, I'm not going to show you anything about that. I'm not a licensed electrician. I don't feel comfortable enough to explain the whole process to you. If you're not comfortable doing electricity, please consult a licensed electrician. So I'll see you on the next video. Thank you for watching. And as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you next time.